I've got to be honest, I didn't expect this one. Capital One blessed me with a $39,000 credit limit. And after these past few years with Capital One, I've kind of gotten used to how unpredictable they can be. One minute, you think you're maxed out, and there's no way they'll give you another increase. And then out of nowhere, boom, they surprise you. And this week, I logged in, hit that request limit increase button, and got an instant approval for a $10,000 increase from $29,000 up to $39,000. And coming up, you're gonna see how I went from countless 7 to 10 business day denials to 9 total credit limit increases with Capital One over the past 6 years. The strange hack I discovered that triggered back-to-back approvals even when the algorithm should have said no, and why my biggest wins came during low spend months, sometimes after spending less than $300 to even $0. But listen, I completely get it. A lot of you have been stuck with Capital One for years and can't seem to make it work. Like, no matter what you do, they just keep saying no. Don't stress it. Sometimes it's better to just start fresh with a bank that's actually excited to work with you. That's why I always tell people to grab my free credit card pre-approval master list. You'll see over 100 lenders who are offering soft pull pre-approvals right now. And that way, you can start building a relationship with banks that want to say yes to you. So just hit the link below to get access for free. But back to Capital One. So back in 2019, I wasn't chasing credit limits. My FICO score was hovering somewhere in the high 600s to low 700s. And when I applied for the Capital One Quicksilver card and saw that approval screen pop up with a $15,000 limit, I remember just sitting there like, just staring at it. That number might not sound wild now, but at the time, it was massive for me. It was my highest limit ever, and it instantly changed how my credit profile looked overnight. This was the type of limit I could be proud of. Now, what I didn't know then was that I had just lucked my way into Capital One's excellent credit bucket. The one many people never see because they get funneled into starter cards or low limit buckets early on. I didn't realize it yet, but that $15,000 approval was just the foundation that would eventually lead to all the growth that came after. But I'll be honest, I didn't even have a strategy. I was in that chase every single sign up bonus phase, just grabbing rewards and not thinking about the long game. And after I got that Quicksilver card and the bonus, then I kind of shelved it after that. I wasn't studying algorithms or reading data points. I was just living life. Now, fast forward 2 years to March of 2022, and that's when everything changed. Out of nowhere, I clicked the credit limit increase button, and mostly out of curiosity, and just like that, Capital One surprised me with a $1,000 jump to $16,000. Now, looking back, I can see what triggered it. About 90 days before that request, I'd made a $411 travel purchase. Now, nothing major, but enough activity to wake up their internal system. And at the time, though, I didn't understand any of that. I just remember thinking, wait, they actually say yes. It took me 2 years to realize something important. Capital One wasn't going to just hand me more credit because, time had passed. I had to take the lead. It was my first proof that I could influence my results if I played the game right. Now, after that first manual increase in 2022, it kind of clicked for me. I realized that Capital One wasn't just some mysterious black box. It was more like a puzzle. If I could figure out, which buttons to push and what to say, I could keep climbing the ladder. So I started testing. So month after month, quarter after quarter, every few months, like clockwork, I make a few charges, then pay them down, and then manually hit the request increase button again. And sure enough, they kept saying yes. So over the next 2 years, average, one increase every 4 months. I took my limit from 15K to 29K, and I did it without a single hard pull. And here's what surprised me the most, actually. Most of my increases came after spending less than $300 a month. And that was definitely an aha moment for me. Everyone always says that you need to spend thousands and run heavy spend through your card to trigger an increase. But my experience and other data points I've seen since, tell a different story. If you have the right card and you're in the right credit bucket, light usage works just fine. So let's just take a look at my timeline of my credit limit increases. So in July 2019, I got approved for the Quicksilver card with a 15K limit. Then March of 2022, I got approved for a 16K limit. Then July of 2022, I actually product changed from the Quicksilver card to the Venture X card. Now that's key. We're going to talk about that a little later, but I got approved for a 17K limit that month as well. Then in October of 2022, I still had the Venture X, this new card. then approved for an 18K limit. Then in August of 23, I got a 23K limit. So that's a 5K increase, which is huge. Then September of 23, I went to 24K. Then in February of the following year, 24, I got to 25K credit limit. And then June of 24, I went to 26K. In September, again, same year of 24, I went to 29K. And now in October of this year of 25, I got a $10,000 increase up to 39K. That's a total of 9 increases for $24,000 of overall credit limit increases if you total everything out. And if you look at the interval between increases, not including the first one, it's about 150 days or about 5.5 months between increases. Now, I'll be honest, not every request was a win. Far from it. There were plenty of times when I hit the request increase button and then got that dreaded, you'll receive a decision in 7 to 10 business days, which is basically Capital One's polite way of saying no. And each time it stung a little. You kind of start second guessing, everything at that point. Was my utilization too high? Did I apply too soon? Should I have showed higher income? Instead, I treated every denial like a data point. I make a note, of what my usage looked like, how long it had been since my last increase, what my income field said, and then I try again the next month. And sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. But over time, those small tweaks added up. I started to see patterns, what Capital One liked, what triggered approvals, and what it didn't. And that persistence is what eventually led me to the strategies that I use now. And here's exactly how I filled out the request increase form this last time. So for my monthly spend estimate, I used $10,000. For a maximum desired line, I used 39K. The reason for increase, I said I expect higher expenses over the next few months. And then for employment status, I always choose employed. So even though I'm self-employed, I always put that I'm employed by my own business. Then for income, I entered my stated household income and I stayed under that 300K mark. That's really my general rule of thumb to keep things believable and consistent. Here's the funny part. At this point, I barely even use the card anymore. The only recurring charge on it right now is my wife's $140 monthly gym membership. That's it. No big purchases, no heavy spend cycles, no trying to game the system. Just that one auto pay quietly running every month. So when I hit submit, I wasn't expecting much more than $1,000. But instead, within seconds, my screen refreshed and there it was. New credit line, $39,000. And then below it, I had two options that appeared. I could accept the new credit line or I want a lower one. Now, I don't know who's picking that second option, but I hit accept so fast. And listen, after years of testing and tweaking and learning from both my own results and hundreds of other points shared by others, I realized that Capital One isn't as unpredictable as people think. They're actually kind of consistent if you know how to read their patterns. So here's the 5 core strategies that helped me go from 15K in 2019 to 39K today. First, you're going to start with a strong credit score. So if you take away one thing from my journey, let it be this. How you enter your relationship with Capital One often determines how far you can go with them. So when I first got approved for the Quicksilver card, my FICO score was hovering right around 700, just on the edge of good credit. I didn't realize it at the time, but that placed me in Capital One's excellent credit bucket, the same internal category where their top tier customers live. And that's important because Capital One follows what's known in the industry as the barbell strategy. So they focus heavily on two ends of the spectrum: people rebuilding credit. Think about the platinum and the Quicksilver One cards, and then people with elite profiles with, like the Venture X card or even the Saver card. In the middle, they largely skip over that. So by starting with decent credit, I unknowingly avoided, being stuck in the low limit jail that so many people complain about. And then two, you want to product change up. So when I switched from the Quicksilver to the Venture X, it was like I got promoted inside of Capital One's ecosystem. This one move took my account from a mid-tier card with limited upside to a Visa Infinite product, which comes with a $10,000 minimum starting limit and a reputation for fast growth. I've seen Venture X limits going up to 50 plus $1,000. That upgrade didn't just improve my perks, it completely changed the way Capital One viewed my profile. Suddenly, I was seeing bigger jumps and much faster increases. So if you're sitting on a card that's stuck, Don't underestimate the power of a product change. You might not even need a new application. You might just need to elevate the relationship you already have. And then three, light but consistent usage, but you have to know which bucket you're in. So this is the part that most people, I would say, get wrong. And it's one of the biggest lessons that I've learned after years of watching patterns play out. Capital One has two types of customers, and each one has its own playbook. So if you're in the low tier bucket, so think about fair and rebuilding credit, Capital One needs to see you working for it. Your system wants to know that, you can handle higher limits, not just by paying on time, but by proving that you'll actually use the credit they give you. So here's the move. You want to keep your card top of wallet for a few months. Use 50 to 100% of your limit during the cycle, but pay it down before the statement cuts. And you want to do this consistently. That's how you send the message that I'm active, I'm responsible, and I can handle more. Now, if you're on the higher tier bucket side, think about good to excellent credit. Once you're in the Capital One's trust zone, the rules change completely. You don't need to spend aggressively, you just need to stay active. Even light occasional usage paired with clean credit reports and on time payments can move the needle. I've even seen people, myself included, get increases with as little as $0 to $300 in monthly spend. And then four, you want to do manual requests every month. If there's one consistent truth about Capital One, it's this: you have to ask for what you want. So automatic increases do happen, but they're rare and unpredictable. Every increase that I've received was the result of me manually submitting requests. I started making it a routine for me. Every 30 days or so, right after my statement cut, I'd log in and request a bump. And on one occasion, I even got back to back increases in 2 consecutive months. And the best part is, it's always a soft pull, meaning it won't affect your credit score. So there's absolutely zero downside to taking a swing at it. And then five, you want to optimize your income. And this one's overlooked, but it's powerful. So before every credit limit request, I update my income, and not just mine, but my household income. The Card Act allows you to include income that's accessible to you, which means that you can legally count your spouses, your partners, or shared income sources like rental income or joint investments. Capital One doesn't even verify income, most banks don't, but they do factor it heavily into their limit decisions. The more income that you can reasonably claim, the more room their algorithm gives you. As a rule of thumb, I keep it believable under 300K, but you can use your best judgment here. And remember, banks don't just lend based on credit scores, they lend based on capacity of your ability to repay. And when you show them that your capacity has grown so much, they often respond with more credit. And I would say, each increase brought me more breathing room, higher limits, dropped my utilization, boosted my scores, and gave me enough credit headroom to move without fear. Last year, I had to make a $16,000 payment to my general contractor doing a home renovation. I called Capital One just to be sure it would go through without red flags. And you know what the rep said? They said, "You're good to go." And they were right. The payment cleared instantly. And, the old me would have never imagined that I'd be capable of making a payment that large with just one credit card. And once my Capital One limit hit the, 20K to 30K mark, I noticed something new. Other banks started matching that energy. It's what I call a credit snowball effect. One big limit attracts more big limits. So when Capital One trusts you with 30K, other lenders follow suit. And before long, the higher limit started stacking across personal and business credit cards with Chase and Amex too. And another thing I want you to take away from this story is that I didn't have insider access or perfect credit when I started. I wasn't sitting on some secret playbook or calling in favors from a bank rep behind the scenes. I was just another person testing and learning and staying consistent one increase at a time. That's why I share the data that I do. That's why I document every approval, every increase, every no that turned into a yes. Because when one of us wins, it teaches the rest of us how to win too. And by the way, I literally just got a major win with SoFi as well. They approved me for a $51,000 personal loan with no docs and same day funding. And check out the next video right here to see the one loan reason you must choose if you don't want to tank your approval chances, and the secret weapon that can get you approved with no docs like I did. Thank you for watching.